5 Deadly Trends Facing Retailers Today. Welcome to the webinar. Hi, this is Mike Winnicky. I love retail. I spent nearly 2 decades as the owner of several retail businesses. To me, there's nothing more apple pie American than the locally owned retail store. But from what I'm seeing in the marketplace today and from what retailers are telling me, there has never been a more dangerous time for retail, no matter the niche that you're in, than right now. Whenever I talk to a group of retailers, one of the questions I ask is, for those of you who have owned their retail business for more than 10 years, is owning a retail business now easier than what it was when you first started? Put your hands up. And what percentage puts their hands up? Usually about 1 out of 10. Only 1 out of 10 thinks owning a retail business is easier than when they started. Then I ask, this question is for the whole room. How many of you are frustrated with your retail business? Be it you work too many hours for too little pay, be it government regulations and red tape are strangling you, be it good employees are tough to find and more difficult to keep, be it big box retailers or internet retailers who are choking the profit out of the market. Again, put your hands up. Can you guess the percentage of retailers who are frustrated with their operations? It's high, almost 100%. And that's where we are right now when it comes to retail. What I want to talk about are the 5 deadly trends facing retailers today. They are 1. Marketing is stuck in 1987. 2. Haven't defined themselves as a must-have part of the food chain. 3. Don't consider internet competition as being true competition. 4. Too much time spent at the store for way too little return. And 5. Have become product pushers rather than product solvers. Let's take them one at a time. Back in 1987, when I was a young pup, my father opened a retail store, having recently been laid off and unable to find work in the oil and gas industry. Can you believe a barrel of oil was just $15 back then? I decided to join him. Though I'd worked in a couple of retail businesses while going to school, I quickly discovered I didn't have a clue how to market a retail store. A family friend who owned an established retail store gave me this advice. Mike, don't worry about it. The ad reps will be more than happy to help you out. He was right. Once a week, the daily newspaper ad rep would poke his head in the door. The reps from the free weekly newspapers would show up next. The 3 local radio station reps would stop by every now and then. On top of that, once a year, the Yellow Pages rep would visit, and of course ad reps from billboard companies, restaurant placements, and grocery store cash register receipts would be by periodically. When it came down to it for our area, like many areas back then, marketing was all about the daily newspaper, the radio stations, and the Yellow Pages. That's where most prospects came from. So the reps were there to help me out. Right. I knew they were there to spend our money, and as I found out later, they didn't know much more about marketing than I did. But at least they knew something about it from being in the business for a longer period. And that's how it was back in 1987. At the time, I thought it was complicated, but advertising in 1987 wasn't much different from advertising in 1977, 1967, or even 1957. If you had a retail business, you pretty much focused on advertising via the same 3 venues: in the daily newspaper, on the local radio stations, and in the Yellow Pages. Little did I know how much more complicated it would be to market a business in the coming decades, especially after the internet went from an amusing toy to a must-have access to medium for almost everyone. Since then, of course, the rules for marketing your business have been turned upside down. And although there are several areas that might appear to be just as they were in 1987, once you wipe the dust off, it becomes clear that even the old and reliable channels have changed. Back in 1994, I did a study of our store traffic. By then, I was fully immersed in this marketing stuff as I tried to find the golden key that would unlock the floodgates to more traffic. Here's how things broke out. Daily newspaper, 34%. Weekly newspaper, 13%. Radio, 22%. Yellow pages, 10%. Unknown, 14%. Keep in mind that these percentages reflected new customer traffic only. They did not include customers who had shopped in our store previously. "20 years later, a store could have similar percentages but end up with significantly fewer customers. How is this possible? It all has to do with the number of potential customers who aren't reading the daily newspaper, listening to local radio, pulling the yellow pages off the shelf to look up a phone number. Readership of newspapers has plummeted. Listenership of local radio stations has plummeted. The percentage of people using ink on paper yellow pages directories has plummeted. I don't think these are revelations to anyone. I've had one store owner after another tell me the same thing. And yet, despite these facts, many retailers have not changed their marketing mix in years. The rules of marketing a local retail store have changed greatly, and unless you accept the fact and are willing to move in new directions, you're going to be doomed to a shrinking customer base. When we started our first retail store in the mid-'80s, it was common practice to purchase our inventory from distributors who in turn purchased the product from manufacturers. Needless to say, many of us have seen the transition over the last 30 years from that business model to one where retailers in many niches are purchasing some, if not all, of their inventory directly from the manufacturer. In many retail niches, the distributor has gone the way of the dodo bird, and the changes haven't stopped there. Within many retail niches, the manufacturer has either attempted or will attempt to sell directly to the consumer, bypassing the retail channel altogether. In some retail sectors, like hobby shops, there have always been manufacturers who have had a two-door approach to business, with one door leading to hobby shops and the other directly to consumers. Don't get me wrong, that type of thing rankled me 20 years ago, and it still does. But the fact is that it's only going to get worse. Think of it this way. Okay, what is it you do? What does your business do? It sells stuff, right? It sells stuff. The question is, would a manufacturer sell your stuff? And don't think for a moment it hasn't been talked about in boardrooms across this country and by manufacturers outside the U.S. The subject has come up where they're constantly looking at the numbers to see if they can make more money by simply bypassing the retail channel. And if the manufacturers weren't looking to take over your market share, then the pure internet retailers are. Let's face it, Amazon is becoming a monopoly if they aren't already. And if Amazon isn't in your niche now, then they will be. Even the retailers offering big items like appliances and furniture are not immune to the internet threat. And even if your customer isn't looking to buy from an internet retailer, they're researching the products you're offering and they're getting prices. Bottom line is that customers are far more savvy about products and pricing than they ever have been. But the news gets even worse. Do a search on Google for your business and see what the reviews say. Who, as a retailer, hasn't had a bad experience at some point with a customer and have that customer say, "I'm going to tell everyone about your bad service," and they may go tell 2, 5, or 8 people. Well, now they're telling every single person that searches for your business that you, rightfully or wrongfully, has done to them. Think about that for a moment and the implications it can mean for your business. The internet can be a great friend or a miserable enemy, and it's up to you as the retail business owner or manager which way you want it to go. I've been part of several different retail associations, some containing retailers of the same niche, some a mixture of different niches, and many times the question would come up, how many hours a week are you putting in at your store? One person would say, "Oh, I work 50 hours a week." Another would say, "I work 6 days a week putting in 10 hours a day." And another would puff up his chest and say, I've worked 18 days straight, putting in at least 10 hours a day. And that's how it would go. Retailers trying to one-up each other with war stories of long days and many hours. Bottom line is that retail has never been more complicated than it is right now, and the result is a lot of time spent at the store, too much time. And this time spent at the store robs them of the time they could be spending with their families. Many retailers I work with are initially time imbalanced, and it's robbing them of having a balanced life. The last deadly trend I want to talk about is the typical approach I see used by many retailers when it comes to offering their products. I'm sure you've seen the typical newspaper ad that shows a picture of a car, or a recliner, or a TV. Next to the picture of the product is a couple of bullet points giving the features of the product and finally the price of the product. Picture, product, price. Does that do a good job at telling the advantages of the product? No. It's left to the consumer to figure those out. Does it lead to consumers shopping you strictly on price? You bet it does, because we don't give them a reason to shop our retail stores any other way. And by doing that, we've become product pushers. Being a product pusher doesn't lead to maximum profits. Only being a problem solver will. But becoming a problem solver in your retail niche, or if you will, a trusted authority, takes a different mindset and a different way of marketing your business. However, make no mistake, retail businesses that decide to become problem solvers instead of product pushers will see more profits and less headaches. The result for the retail business owner or manager is a business life as easy as pie. Profitable, interesting, and enjoyable. I want to thank you for listening to this webinar, and I hope you found it helpful. And here's a way for you to get even more help for your retail store. Right now, I'm offering you a free 1/2-hour consultation with me, Mike Winicky. We'll talk about the challenges you're facing, and I'll offer some remedies on how to get your ship righted. And it starts with one phone call, 716-373-0983. Give me a call and let's get your free consultation scheduled. Again, that's 716-373-0983. Good day, and I wish you retail success.